Hey, it's Ray with Sober Without God, and welcome to Saturday Book Review. And today I have read the Stuart Woods book, LA Dead, number 5 in the Stone Barrington series. And welcome to my channel. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And on my channel, I talk about sobriety and talk about being an ex-evangelical. But on Saturdays, it's just for book reviews. And I'm going through the Stone Barrington series of books by Stuart Woods, and I found him to be a very interesting character with no moral compass. In fact, I found a book review on CNN that was written back when this book came out 100 years ago. Let's see, this book came out back in 2001, and I found a book review. The reviewer on CNN didn't like it. He said, Barrington, the main character, is more of a caricature than a character. He's brilliant, fearless, and loyal, not to mention tall and handsome. He's the most fully realized character in the book. The men he meets in Los Angeles are self-serving sharks, and the women are bundles of self-absorbed libido. L.A. Dead is a quick read. Woods writes in a brisk, unadorned style that easily absorbed by eyes without making much of an impression on the brain. That's flattering. That's right. That's why I enjoy reading this stuff, because usually I get into reading dig deep in some self-help material, and you know what? My brain needs a break. And this stuff isn't very heavy. Well, this book picks up where the last book left off. It's what they all do. You know, these books really read like it's like you're reading a soap opera, honestly. And he's ended it again with his friend, his woman who's really the main love interest of his life, Arrington, whose last book married Vance Calder, who's a movie star. But he loves Arrington with all his heart, and so they get reunited in this book because Vance Calder is found dead, presumably murdered by Arrington, the love of his life. But at the beginning of the book, Stone has gone to Italy to marry an Italian woman named Dolce. And Dolce and he kind of fell in love as much as Stone Barrington can fall in love. And they have to go through two parts of a legal process to get married in Italy. There's a civil ceremony and a religious part. So they go through the civil part, and then he finds out that Vance Calder's dead. He gets a phone call, and they're like, "We need you in LA." And so he's like, "Okay." And his woman, Dolce, is like, "You need to go. You should leave." And so he leaves to go take care of the murder business. But then he gets in LA, and everybody's glad to see him. But then Dolce's like, "Why did you go?" So they're setting her up to be someone who's lost her mind. So they're writing her out of the series, I guess, or whatever. In fact, at the end of the book, she's gone absolutely out of her mind. And he calls Dolce when he gets in LA, and she's like, "Why did you leave? I can't believe that you left." And he's like, "You told me to leave." And she said, "Well, I'm looking out my window at a sexy looking goat herder right now that I may invite into my bed." Friends, you can't make this stuff up. You know who can? Stuart Woods. That's right. And your normal book, he goes back to LA where he was previously, I believe, in the last book. And it's the only kind of book where you would find a line where Stone Barrington says something like this. I believe the line was, "Why am I always surrounded by women who are always taking their clothes off in front of me, especially when I'm trying to be good?" And that's what's interesting about this novel. Usually I keep count of how many women the Stone Barrington is sleeping with, but it usually happens by chapter 13. Doesn't happen this time for like a long time, because it seems like his moral compass isn't broken anymore, and he's trying to stay on the straight and narrow for Dolce, who he's gone through a civil marriage with, and also for Arrington, who he can't decide whether he's still in love with or not. And so he goes on this path, and he turns down several women, and you're like, "This isn't like you, Stone. What's wrong? I mean, you're a player, you know? What are you doing? You're a dog. Just do what you do." And he gets out to LA, and everybody there is sleeping around, and he's enjoying himself, but he's not enjoying himself because the author, Stuart Woods, keeps using the word Randy, because he doesn't want to use the word horny. But in fact, one point in the book, it gets kind of odd. And he finally does get he does sleep with two women. He sleeps with Arrington, and he sleeps with this other lady who's like a famous actress in Hollywood. And he doesn't go. Stewart never goes into. Well, yeah, sometimes he does. He does go into graphic detail. He doesn't go into like smut detail, but he goes into enough detail, and sometimes he makes up for it later, like in this passage. It's like time they've already spent a lot of time together, and they spent a lot of time together. And this is what the passage says. It says, Stone sneezed, and the woman he's with says, God bless you. And Stone says, I hope I'm not getting a cold. And the lady says, I don't think you can get a cold from anal sex. Anyway, yeah, it's that kind of writing that we're sticking around for. Here's the line from earlier. He said, I won't complain, he said, but why were women always walking around naked in front of him just when he was trying to be good? Because that's the thing, right? That's the thing that happens to everybody all the time. Just people walking around naked. Well, they go through this whole ordeal where people are trying to figure out who killed Vance Calder. And obviously, Arrington's the number one suspect, and he's trying to clear her name. And he has to fight the LAPD on it, the detectives there, and he brings his old buddy Dino in from we've seen in previous books, and they go through some legal stuff. And he also has another instance in this book of passing women around. He finds a lawyer to help him on the Arrington case, and he's like, hey, I've got a lady, and she stays with me, but if you ever get Randy, you know, don't go sleeping with the main woman don't go sleeping with Arrington because she's the main suspect. You can borrow my woman for a while. No joke. And then also Stone says something very interesting too. He tells Arrington, I can't be seen sleeping with a widow, someone who's just lost her husband. Dude, you literally did that in Dead in the Water, the second book in the series. Lady pulls up in her boat. Husband's just been dead for like 2 days, and he's with her 2 days later. You just did that. So why have you changed your mind just a short time later? He's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He just decides to get morals for the first half of this book. I don't understand it. But they go through this whole process, and he saves all his surprises for the end, which they're not really very good surprises. And so this book was pretty darn disappointing. And even though the Chicago Tribune says Stuart Woods is a no-nonsense slam bang storyteller, well, there is a lot of slam banging in it. I will tell you that. So I'm sorry to say that I'm going to give this book 1 out of 5 Stone Barringtons. Yep. So if you come across this book, I wouldn't pay more than 99 cents for it. Definitely wouldn't spend the $15.49 or whatever it is on Kindle. Get it at your library if you want to read it. I listened to it on audiobook through Overdrive, or maybe it was Libby, but it was my first audiobook experience with the Stuart Woods book, and the narration was okay. But maybe Cold Paradise, which is the next book in the series, maybe it'll be better. And I hope you enjoyed my review, and I will continue to keep reviewing Stone Barrington novels, hoping the soap opera gets a little bit better next time. See you next time.